So good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Purpose First webinar series entitled Do the Right Thing Right Now. We're going to be talking about the PA 30-Day Fund, where it came from, what it's all about, and the fact that since the past recent events and the effect on businesses, the new commitment of $100,000 that was earmarked. I am Greg Riccardi. I'm the president and CEO of 29. I'm going to be one of your hosts. I'm here with Gary Kopervas, who's our Senior Vice President of Brand Strategy and Innovation. And our special guest is Jeff Bartos. He is one of the creators of the 30-day or the PA 30-Day Fund. I'm really excited to talk about this. This has been an amazing fund that was created. And the impact on Pennsylvania businesses alone has been just absolutely incredible to hear these stories, and let's dive into it. So kind of the first thing I want to do is kind of open this up to Jeff. Jeff, I'd like you to kind of tell the audience a little bit about who you are, your background, where you came from, and how we ended up at the fund.
Great. Well, first of all, I thank everybody for taking time out of their day on a Friday here in June to make time for this webinar. And of course, to Greg and Gary and the whole 29 team. I've known Greg for a number of years. We've done some great work together professionally. And I'm grateful that you're giving us an opportunity to talk about this nonprofit work that has become this week perhaps even more important than it was when we started it 4 short weeks ago. Set the table back, it's March 16th and businesses, non-essential businesses, non-life sustaining businesses are shut down starting across the Commonwealth starting on March 16th. My business happened to be one of them in the city of Philadelphia. And so from March 16th till April 17th, like so many small business owners, I begged banks to help me with the PPP process, and a small community bank in Allentown called American Bank did actually help, but like so many small community banks did. And on April 17th, I was able to get those funds and deposit them into our account and put all my guys back on the payroll. It was a wonderful day after a pretty unpleasant 5 weeks that I'm sure many people on this call had the same or probably perhaps even a worse experience in terms of dealing with that layoffs and furloughs. 8 a.m. on the 18th, I get a call early on a Saturday morning from an old friend. We've been friends for 40 plus years, who says to me with high energy, "Have you been following what I'm doing down in Virginia?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd seen it on Facebook." He started something called the Virginia 30-Day Fund, he and his wife. They started it with a $100,000 donation. And then by that point, I think it had grown to $300,000 a couple of weeks later. And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, well, I'm just calling to tell you need to do that in Pennsylvania." And we've been friends a long time. And I used some colorful language to tell him that he was out of his mind and that he could, where he could go jump and how he could go do it. And he persevered and pushed me. And what finally sealed the deal for me was he said to me, 10 years from now, when you look back, do you want to remember that what you did during this period was you bitched and complained about your own business problems? Or do you want to remember that you stepped up, used the statewide network that you had built for a different purpose, and use that network to help an awful lot of small businesses survive this incredibly challenging time? And, what do you do? He got me right where the heart is, and he knows me very well, and I couldn't say no. At that point, I was excited to say yes. So that was it. Within minutes of finishing that call, I called my neighbor, who's a professor at Penn, and enlisted him in the effort to bring on students from the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School, and the law school to help us with what really is the critical process here, which is how do you, with great transparency and with great professionalism and speed, review applications of small businesses in need. And so once that Penn partnership was cemented, it started with just a yes from the professor. Today, we have 19 volunteers active and another 20 in reserve in the event that we're able to get more applications to come in, which is something we're working really hard to get the word out to small businesses around Pennsylvania. So with that, I recruited a great board, a diverse board, both in terms of professional background, political affiliation, race, gender, geography. And we got together, we cemented our mission, we cemented our process. On May 6th, we went live on the website, and the Philadelphia Inquirer, Janice Armstrong, who's a great columnist there, she wrote a nice article. We went live, and 2 days later, not even 2 days later, on Friday night, the 8th, this terrific group of people, the board and the Penn students, we sat down for our first of what has now been sort of lost track. I think it's 4 weeks ago tonight we had that first meeting. We did a 4-hour meeting that first night. We've gotten more efficient since then. But that first night we did 4 hours and approved 12 companies across the state for $3,000 forgivable loans. Saturday night we did 6, Sunday we did 6. And so on Monday morning, I had the distinct pleasure of starting to wire $3,000 to businesses all across the state, 24 of them, in that very, that compressed period of time. Since then, we've raised, between pledges and cash, we're certainly over $500,000, probably pushing $600,000 raised at this point. And we have sent $3,000 forgivable loans out to almost a little more than 90 small businesses across Pennsylvania. And so in 4 weeks, it's just been this labor of love for everybody involved and a tireless effort on behalf of a lot of volunteers. We've committed to all our donors that 100% of the funds raised will go to support small businesses. So myself and a couple other board members are paying all, there's not many, but all overhead costs. And Greg, I'm sure you and Gary will want to get into it, but the stories from the small business people are the real amazing aspect of this work. Their voices, their passion, their courage, their resilience, their faith, their love has been the sustaining force of the work we're doing.
Yeah, I think one of the things that when we first got together and you told me about the fund and the purpose behind it, I was blown away because our own business and like many other businesses being affected by the pandemic, the challenge in trying to navigate through various different banks, trying to get funds, and dealing with the unknown of the outlook of the future and what is that going to be, not only for your business, but your livelihood and where you're going to end up after the end of this. It's a scaring and daunting aspect behind what we had to go through. And hearing about businesses that don't have access to those funds, either federal or statewide, and then all of a sudden a potential resource like this kind of just pops up in the ability to get a forgivable loan that can make an incredible difference within those businesses for these people was just incredible to hear. And that's why I was like, then we got to tell this story. Our own business and our focus is built on energizing positive change within the brands, the communities and the people and the cultures that we deal with. And I couldn't see a better way that we could help affect, the PA economy and the businesses that we, that have served our own needs and the communities around them. And this is an opportunity for those communities to give back. So I thought it was an incredible opportunity to kind of showcase this and push this out. So I appreciate the fact that you're coming on and kind of sharing some of these stories. I just want to get a little bit more into, because I've had a lot of questions that have come up since I've been involved with this around the fund itself. And one in particular was somebody actually came up to me and said, what is $3,000 really going to do, for a business? And it's, I'll let you describe it because you've given some of the best descriptions in regards to the simple fact of that $3,000 check and what the effect is. And then we can kind of talk a little bit more.
Yeah, so actually it was my reaction when my friend told me about it. Now I'm born and raised in Reading, Berks County. Sorry, I don't know how to stop that. I lost you there. Can you see me still?
Yep.
Okay, good. I can't see you guys, but that's okay. There you go. I should have figured out how to turn that off, and I will now. Sorry about that. When I asked my friend when he told me about this, I said to him, "Oh God, sorry guys, the phone's off, but somehow it's ringing through my computer."
No worries.
Yeah, it happens, right? Let me turn this off. There we go. I'm very popular today. When my friend said this to me, I said, "What's $3,000 going to do?" And he reminded me that even though I lived on the main line for 18 or 20 years, I should remember my Berks County roots, and that although $3,000 may not keep Comcast in business very long, there's an awful lot of small businesses in the neighborhoods of Philadelphia and throughout the Commonwealth where that's the difference between able to stay in business for another month or not, between payroll and rent. And he couldn't have been more accurate. I mean, that $3,000, what we're hearing from the business owners, I mean, every day, is that you've saved my business. You've allowed, I know I can open now. I know I can reopen now. I know I can get through this. I mean, that at this point, a month in, there's not a day goes by that we don't hear from a small business person when we're delivering the good news that $3,000, in addition to the money, it's the belief and the hope that it gives that total strangers, I mean, think about that, total strangers who have no relationship to this business whatsoever are donating money to another group of strangers who are working, you know, some of us 10, 12 hours a day, full on to help these businesses. That act of selfless concern and support shows love, it shows hope, and it is sustaining for these small business people. So the combination of the money and the hope that it provides has been fuel for people to get through this, what I think is accurate to call an extinction level event for a lot of small businesses. And I have story. I mean, tell me, I mean, I don't want to run on and on, but I have story after story from the conversations I have with small business people when I'm telling them the good news about what their reaction is.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Gary.
I was going to say that's it's exactly where I think we wanted to go to. So, Greg, if you want to mention something, I'll jump in, but I want to just spend a moment before we jump into the story. So, Greg, whatever you were going.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's important to understand too is that this fund is not. It's supported by individuals. It's privately funded. You know, there's, you know, the ability to donate to this fund. People are donating $5, $10, $30, $100. I mean, it's incredibly moving to understand that. And you know, I've watched these videos of these business owners that are looking to get funded and kind of the situation that they're in, and it's heartbreaking. But to hear them talk about the communities that they served and what they have done within those communities, it's an incredible opportunity for those communities themselves to actually give back to the businesses that have served them for so many years and help them to keep them in business. And I think that was the other aspect behind this that was really impactful to me, because it's not just about, you know, a business owner going to the bank and getting a $3,000 loan. This is literally Pennsylvania is helping other Pennsylvanians, and that is just an awesome aspect. But Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I was going to build on what you just said, is that, you know, we've been, for anyone who might be familiar with the series we're doing, we're about 5 or 6 webinars in, and it's always around the same theme, which is who is stepping up and really understanding their purpose and doing something actionable with it. And the more I started to understand what Jeff was doing and with the fund, the more, you know, compelling it was for me because of a couple things, which is, we all know, I mean, just it's outside our windows for many of us, is that there's so much emotion out right now. So there's emotion everywhere, whether it's interactions or, you know, online. It's there's so much emotion, and a lot of people saying, you know, what can I, you know, what, I don't know what to say. You know, there's a lot of and we all have personal experiences with this, or people close to us, and not knowing what to say is one thing, but I think there are a lot of people saying, I'll figure out what I need to say, but what can I do? And so much of this is what actions can I take? And I think a theme that runs through a lot of the conversations we've had, even beyond the even leading up to today's webinar, is what is it that I do every day, or I've had experience in doing? How can I leverage what I do to take action? You know, and that can mean we spoke with a restaurateur who said, you know, I make food, I feed people. Well, let me play that card and see how many people I can help. And it's interesting that Jeff has an experience on the political side and engaging people and getting people to buy into certain concepts and things. But this is really compelling that what you're doing now to impact people's lives at this level, which was very call it grassroots. And what was interesting for me is we all might have experience in dealing with money and loans and things of just the red tape. There's so much red tape with institutional style loans and any type of transactions like that. And what's amazing is just in a matter of days, small business owners, minority owned businesses can access funds quickly, in a matter of days. That can spell the difference between survival and extinction. So and Jeff, you mentioned extinction. So yes, there's so much emotion, a lot of different kinds of emotion. But what's compelling is the action that you're able to not just inspire in other people, but start to build. And that's what we want to talk a little bit about. And the whole idea of forgivable loans. I mean, it's exciting to people who really need and are desperate for that immediacy of help. So, I mean, I'm going to jump into something you had mentioned before about the stories. So I'd ask you to think about some of those. But before we do, I also want to just, because obviously I can see we have some people who joined us. If you have questions, because I know I did, leading up to today, and questions about specifically the fund, but there are a lot of people trying to start things. We can call them, whether it's a movement or trying to organize help in some ways. If you have some questions, maybe about something you're doing that might be related to this type of help, or maybe your own, maybe again, something that your particular strength or experience is in, and you're trying to mobilize something. If you have questions, I would ask them, because Jeff's been through that formulation of this thing, and from what I've been able to hear too, it's not always easy. And it's a type of thing. There could be 10 people that you meet in a day that are like super excited and believe in you and have that energy, but there's that bridge from energy to action. And I found some of the stories compelling. So if you have questions, please post them. We'll kind of get to them. But Jeff, if we could jump into just some of the stories, because this is when it becomes very real and the humanity comes out, is when you have those stories and the way you've been able to improve and touch, even in the short period of time this has been happening, you've been able to touch a lot of people's lives, and we see some on screen. But can you tell us maybe a couple stories of ones that stood out for you, or maybe some stories and interactions with people that mean something special to you?
Yeah, and let me apologize in advance, because I can't tell a lot of these stories without getting a little weepy or emotional. So I guess I have the two-dimensional aspect of the screen here protects me a little, but I'll do my best to get through the stories. So I think there's two stories that illustrate what we're doing here pretty well. I'll start one the first weekend and one this week. That first weekend we had. As I mentioned, we funded 24 companies. One of those companies was a small plumber in Philadelphia, a small plumbing company in Philadelphia. And I was not sure that we actually should be funding the company. I'm in the building business, and I was like, how do you differentiate between any one tradesman and another? And I was dragging my feet a little. So I called the gentleman. I guess it's my prerogative as the chairman of the board. Not really, by the way. I didn't run it by anybody, but I called him to just get a little more sense of who this business owner was as a person and tell me a little more about his business. And I spoke to him. His name's Greg. I called Greg and I just said, tell me, I'm calling from the 30-day fund. Tell me more about your business. And he, with passion and pride, as you might expect, he talked about being a master plumber for 28 years. He talked about really making an effort to hire young men who'd serve time in prison and teach them a trade and get them on their feet and give them a skill that they can provide them with the training to have a skill that they could use for the rest of their lives and maybe start their own business. He mentioned that he happened to have 3 people working for him just now before the pandemic hit that he had trained, and they're great people. And he'd been paying them out of his own pocket during the shutdown because he just didn't want to lose them. And then he paused and he says to me, Jeff, I have to ask you a personal question. I said, yeah, sure, anything. He said, am I stupid? And I was on the phone. I wasn't face to face with him. I was on the phone. Greg, I don't understand. What do you mean stupid? He said, well, I've been in business. I'm a good plumber. I don't have a Wharton MBA, but I feel like I was running a good business. I didn't have a lot of debt. We had a good customer base. This pandemic hits and I wasn't prepared. And I just feel like I've been beating myself up that I let my employees down and I let my family down. And I just feel terrible and I feel like I'm stupid. Well, it just so turns out that I've been feeling the exact same way and have been suffering from some insomnia, feeling like I let Cheryl and the girls down, feeling like I let the guys who've been with me for 10 years down. Not to complain and have a pity party, but I had been having a rough time too. And so I said, look, let me answer it in a more personal way. Let me tell you, I do have fancy degrees from fancy schools and I didn't see it coming. And my friends who run billion-dollar companies, they didn't see it coming. And I said, Greg, if they didn't see it coming, how the heck are you and I going to see it coming? You have 3 employees. I got 7. I was like, dude, I'm here to tell you, you're a hero. You're hiring people who've had a rough time. You're training them. You're giving them a good place to work. You're teaching them a skill. You're relying on them to take care of your customers. And I can hear in your voice, you're a good man. I said, you ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. You are definitely not stupid. I said, oh, by the way, let me lighten the load for you a little. We're going to be sending you $3,000 tomorrow. I hope that helps a little. And I've asked his permission to share these stories in the past, so I'm not portraying any confidences here. But it started quietly, and then it built to a very noticeable and discernible weeping, crying from Greg, which elicited the same emotion from me. There were 2 grown men who had gone through a lot over the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks at that time, sharing kind of like a very much needed cathartic cry. Greg apologized, said he hadn't cried like that since his dad died 2 years ago. I shared with him that my mom died 2 years ago. Like at this point, we're brothers, right? And he said, I've been praying and praying and praying that something good would happen, and this is the first thing that's answered my prayers. He said, you guys are from heaven. You're angels from heaven. Thank you. This hope means you've given me hope. And I know we can get through this, and I'm going to pay this back. I'm going to pay it forward. I'm going to help somebody else the way you're helping me. So this is an overwhelming conversation. It's the 3rd day or 4th day we're doing this. And it's right before dinner time. And so I compose myself and I come into the kitchen and I share that story with Cheryl and the girls. And of course, that elicits the same emotion from them. And I've been struggling with my girls to try to understand, how do I explain what's going on in people's homes and small businesses? That story illustrated it way better than I ever could try to explain it with charts and graphs and GDP and all that stuff. So Greg, we've stayed in touch. I gave him my cell phone. I asked him to call me anytime if he needed something. And that's one of 90 plus individual stories that are powerful and real and authentic and sustaining and just good. I've had a chance to meet many of our awardees or business owners because I live very close to West Philly and very close to North Philly. And so it's easy for me to give people checks as opposed to mail them. And so I've had the pleasure of having, I know you're supposed to say this, socially distanced with a mask. I mean, I'm not breaking any rules. But we've had meetings where I've been able to exchange the check and talk for another 20 minutes or half hour about their businesses. I can tell you that I report back to our board that we've just, between our Penn students doing a great job and our board doing a great job, we've just picked, I'm sure we've missed some great people, and that's why we're continuing to raise funds, because we want to help as many as we can. But we've helped just terrific human beings, terrific leaders, terrific business owners during this 4 weeks. If I can pivot to this week, obviously whoever's on the phone, not from Philadelphia or from Pittsburgh, I think Erie and Harrisburg as well. Obviously they've been putting aside the peaceful protests, which are ongoing and are very important, just talking specifically about the violence, the property damage, the looting, and some of the lawlessness that's gone on. One of our board members, Jeff Brown, texted us on Monday morning of this week for our normal 8 a.m. board call. He said, I can't make it. 4 of my stores, his grocery stores, were attacked last night, and 2 were destroyed. 4 were really damaged, but of those 4, 2 were basically destroyed. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Obviously, I was very upset, not at him for not making it, but for the fact that this shouldn't happen to a man who's built 11 stores in what the policymakers call food deserts. He's providing healthy food at good prices to a community that's been ignored for too long in many of these neighborhoods. And he's also employing from the neighborhood, and he is the largest employer of returning citizens in the country, I believe. And so Jeff Brown and his family are Nobel Prize winners in my book, and should be considered for that at some point. So I was very upset, and I called him later that day to see how he was doing. And he said, I'm fine, and we're fine, and nobody was hurt, and we'll rebuild. And, Jeff, he paused and he said, Jeff, we need to redouble our efforts. There's so many minority-owned businesses now that have been wrecked the last 2 nights in Philadelphia. We need to step up our game, and we need to redouble our efforts, and we have a lot more people we need to help. Now, I am not that good a person. I would have reacted very differently than Jeff Brown did. But as soon as he said that, all the anger, all the frustration I felt just washed out. And I was able to immediately get on board with what he was saying. And by Monday night, I was thinking about how do we direct some of our efforts to help those businesses that had just been destroyed or greatly damaged. On Tuesday morning, I received a phone call from a dear friend out of the blue who said, what are you doing to help minority-owned small businesses in Philadelphia recover from what just happened? And I said, well, we're going to talk about it today. And he said, well, I'm pledging $25,000 right now. Get to work. He's like, I need you to raise a lot of money. It's a good way to start the day, by the way. We raised way more than $100,000 since Tuesday for this effort. And I understand the politics. I understand the raw emotion that's involved with everyone right now across the nation, and certainly here in Philadelphia. But this morning, to kind of close the loop on that, Greg and Gary, I went. So that's the store that Jeff Brown owns on Fox Street in North Philadelphia was basically destroyed Sunday night into Monday morning. I just went to the, if you will, grand reopening this morning. I bought some stuff there. It looks like a brand new store inside. In basically 5 days, they rebuilt an entire store. Not because of profits. I know the Brown family very well. As Jeff Brown said to the governor, to the mayor, to the media, to me, and to everyone who spoke with over the last couple of days, he has an obligation in his heart to feed the citizens of Philadelphia who don't have another place to buy their groceries. He has an obligation to get medicine to senior citizens and others who don't have another pharmacy to shop at. And so what motivated the Brown family and ShopRite over the last 5 days was servicing and serving their customers. That's it, full stop. And so when I went this morning, prayers led by a priest, an imam, and a Baptist preacher, a female Muslim, certainly not an imam. I don't know what the proper term would be, but she led prayers, local community leaders, black, white, police officers. Everybody was joining together, arms around each other. Nobody tell the governor that we had our arms around each other. Arms around each other, praying and rejoicing in that a community that just a couple of days ago had been overwhelmed with violence and property damage was coming together to take care of each other. I if you don't find that inspiring, I probably don't know how to communicate then.
Yeah, Jeff, if I could jump in, I mean that's really moving, and thank you for sharing how personal it is. But I just wanted to ask a question, and good news is there's some questions coming in, and I invite people to keep asking questions because soon we'll have a little section where we're going to sort of, as best we can, take one question at a time and see what Jeff can do to help answer your questions. But what I want to do is I know a lot of from what I've gathered of people who have tuned in to the webinar, there's always I've gathered is that people come and watch and listen to say, okay, I understand this. I can take this and use this in what I'm doing. And I think it's safe to say in the coming months, even years, there's going to be a lot of people saying, you know what, I've decided I know what I want to do. How do you mobilize? How do you win the hearts and minds of people who maybe or don't have the same sense of purpose that you do. So can you give us a sense of how do you get people to share your purpose and actually take action and help get behind what you're doing? And it's great how you explained your friend did that in Virginia. So there's a great inspiration to say, okay, the framework's in place and it is working. That's exciting. But how do you turn and start to get other people to buy into your purpose?
Well, I mean, this all happened so fast. I think some people's reactions, a lot of people's reaction to what our board and what the Penn students are doing from our partners in Altoona, Blair County, which I'll get to in a second, and Berks County as well. We've just moved with such velocity that I'd like to say we had a plan and we put it all together, but it was really an idea, a bunch of phone calls, people stepping forward to help, some people saying sounds great, but then not stepping forward until later, but then did step forward, and just a relentless hopefulness and drive to get this done. Now, look, the bottom line is without Penn and without the students at Penn, this couldn't happen. And I've reminded the students as many times as I possibly can that number one, in their work lives, they're never going to be praised the way that we keep praising them. So they should not get used to that kind of gratitude from an employer, sadly. But they're indispensable, and I don't use that word lightly. They're indispensable to the process because the integrity and intelligence and non-biased nature that they approach their work is just indispensable. So finding a partner who has that horsepower, intellectual, high integrity, high morality horsepower to partner with was critical. The board, none of this would happen without putting a board together that was motivated to raise money or to use other skills and resources at their disposal, whether it's, Mustafa Rashid and Cass Bailey at Slice Communications and Bellevue Strategies. They're the CEOs of their companies and they have enormous intelligence, capabilities, creativity, and communications. Reaching out to other friends like Greg and telling them about what we're doing. Jeff Brown, Richard Phillips, Roger Braunfeld, Maya Camo, and Tom Nerney. Around me was just an all-star cast of really accomplished people. As I like to joke, I'm the only one who's unemployed in that group. I mean, I have all the time in the world right now because my businesses have been shut down for almost 12 weeks. Everybody else has a full-time job. So being respectful of their time, but also continuing to not be shy about asking for help, I think was critical. This is experience born from a run for statewide office and building businesses, never getting down or deterred. Plenty of people shut the door in your face. Plenty of people say no. The worst thing that people say is, let me get back to you. Let me think about it, because then you don't know what to do. A no is better than let me think about it. But just being relentlessly optimistic and hopeful and not taking a no as a way, because you could just stop. The first no, you could go, meh. And I'll say this, and let me just be honest about it. A little bit of luck. Those first couple phone calls, if they had all been no, I don't know, would I have persevered? I don't know. But the first couple phone calls were, yes, how can I help? And that sets the momentum going. And once you can build off the momentum, then it just really, it goes in directions you couldn't have imagined. Let me just share with you, and I don't want to use her name, but yesterday we got a donation. We received a donation from a Philadelphia police officer. And I won't read what the note that she sent along with it exactly, but it was basically, thank you for doing what you're doing. What has happened to these small businesses in the neighborhoods is heartbreaking. I'm so sorry that we were kept in Center City and weren't allowed to protect the neighborhoods the way we wanted to, and the business owners there. Thank you for what you're doing, and God bless you. You're really helping Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. That was more or less what she wrote. So, I mean, in the midst of everything that's going on, that's an overwhelming message. And by the way, yesterday we received countless donations as well from members of the community who have suffered systemic racism and depravity and unfairness their entire lives, who are also thanking us for taking care of and working with small businesses that they rely on every day. And so I don't want to be Pollyannish. This isn't this, we're not winning a Nobel Prize here. We're not solving all the world's problems, but it is bringing people together across the political spectrum, across this great divide that we're all seeing every day. That Philadelphia police officer donated $1,000. Let me say that again. That Philadelphia police officer donated $1,000. Now, at the store this morning at the grand opening, I saw a couple police officers who were there to support, who work in the neighborhood, who shop at the ShopRite, who are officers of color. I asked them, I told them the story, and I said, last time I checked, you guys don't make like $600,000 a year, right? And they all laughed. I said, or $400,000 a year, right? And they laughed. I said, I can't tell you what that means to me to see that type of donation from a Philadelphia police officer to help rebuild the community, which has suffered so much. I would say that's luck, and it's also resonating with people, and we just use that energy and keep moving forward.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to add too is that the process to apply and some of the requirements for businesses to be able to apply for this $3,000 forgivable loan. Can you talk a little bit about what the requirements are and the process? Because I think the process is unique, and I think it's compelling in regards to getting to know these business owners and connecting with them and understanding the impact behind it.
What was there was an ad there, but so simple a caveman could do it. It's so simple that I could do it. And I am not tech savvy in the least, as Gary could verify in these. They had to basically baby step me through this, how to do this webinar. And I still couldn't remember to turn my phone off. So it's very simple. It's online, pa30dayfund.com. There's a big yellow button in the top right corner that says apply. And the smaller button says donate. So we are truly focused on businesses applying and getting the help out there, although we like the donations as well. And it's a very simple process, probably takes less than 10 minutes, and anywhere from 90 seconds to 3 minutes of that 10 minutes is filming a video. Just, taking your phone right to the camera, show us your business, nothing meant to be fancy. And that's really where, if you will, the heart and soul of the business owner and their employees shines through. And that's been, we've received almost, like I said, over 900, almost 1,000 applications. I've probably watched just personally 200 or 300 of those videos. And it's hard to put into words. It's overwhelming to see the way people leap off the camera with the pride of their business and how they describe what they're about and why they do what they do. It's just I got to give it all to my friend Pete Snyder in Virginia, who had the idea to have people film videos and upload them, because I don't know, I'll just use the word, it's brilliant.
Jeff, I'm going to pull a question off that came up a few moments ago. Can you tell us a bit about this, which is from how many counties have you seen applications? Just where are you getting a lot of the applications from?
Oh gosh, well, it's actually a nice chance for me to talk about my good friend Jim Foreman from Blair County put together a group of local business leaders there who committed to raising, I think their goal is $150,000 to all help Blair County businesses at this difficult time. My dear friend Barry Schlauch in Berks County did the exact same thing, rallied the Berks business community to again raise more than $150,000. He's hoping to again stay in Berks County and help Berks County businesses. So we've seen, be outside of Philadelphia County, Blair County and Berks County have seen the largest numbers of businesses applying and funding. But of course, Montgomery County, Delaware County, Chester County, Bucks County, Lancaster County, Lebanon County. I'm doing this from memory, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to miss one. Dauphin County, Allegheny County, McKean County, which I will make a contribution to the fund of $100 right now. If anybody watching here has been to McKean County, and Greg, you can hold me to that, and Clearfield County. So, and we're strongly encouraging. Over the last 10 days, we've been working with the statewide chambers of commerce to encourage businesses everywhere. You go, up northeast, so Luzerne, Lackawanna, Wayne, the whole northeast corridor, the northwest corridor, Erie and Warren, and the counties up in the northwest, the southwest, so obviously Pittsburgh, but also Greene and Fayette and Westmoreland and Washington and Beaver, and then all through the central part of the state. We've been working with those chambers, and look, we need people to apply. I mean, we have resources to help people right now.
That's great. I want to also mention something, and hopefully it will be useful to people who are watching. I think earlier when we had a call that preceded today, you brought up something that stuck with me, and I wanted to see if you can add to that a little bit. And it has to do with how to build out that any purpose-led movement. And you talked about the ability to build champions. And you just mentioned a couple by name who were there, and sometimes it's a matter of luck and chance and relationships and experiences with people. But do you have anything else that might be useful to people in the area of finding and sort of galvanizing champions for your movement?
Yeah, I think, and this comes across as like obvious or trite, then please tell me, because I need to then come up with a better way to say it. But I think empowering people to make an idea and mold it into not into their own, but to mold it to fit what they're trying to accomplish within if there's a larger theme of we want to help save small businesses, mm-hmm. Well, that may look different in Blair County or Berks County or Cambria County or Lackawanna County or Fayette County than it does in Montgomery County or Philadelphia. So having the confidence or the lack of control freakishness, if that's not a word, but I just made it up, to say, step back and kind of let smart people, passionate people do their thing, but be there to guide and help has really worked for us. So I think putting it a different way, not being afraid to let go of the reins and know that the bike isn't, I'm mixing metaphors, but that the whole operation isn't going to crash. That's, I think, important from a leader's perspective. Obviously, communication is key. If you can't communicate the message beyond, your own mind or your own house, or the people that you know really well, then probably is going to stop somewhere along the way. But I do think the key is empowering and or stepping back and letting other people grab the reins and take it and make it their own. I mean, Jim Foreman, who I called that first day, he's a dear friend. I would do anything. We have the highest level of trust for and with each other. But Jim and the Blair County team have just made that authentically Altoona, Blair County. Barry and the team have made it, really Berks. And it shines through in their personalities and how they go about driving the mission. So I think that's the best advice I could give. It's very hard for me, by the way, because I am a control freak. So but I work at it.
That's fair. That's good. I want to. The first question that we shared was from Ted. This one is from Steve, and the question is, what type of services do the businesses you're helping need other than money? Are you seeing other forms of help that might be necessary?
It's a great question. So we talk about this a lot because when this is all said and done, we'll have built a database of, I would think by the time we all give each other a hug and turn the website off, we'll have built a database of thousands of businesses. And the question is, it's just a shame to let that not go to some important purpose. And so I've spoken to like accounting and consulting firms about how do we turn this into a vehicle to help these small businesses with resources, whether it's just something as simple as, accountants, lawyers, consultants, or other professionals donating an hour of their time or 2 hours of their time to mentor a small business. I believe strongly, based on what I've seen, that the reason many small businesses weren't able to access the PPP is because, well, partly they don't have banking relationships, but a lot of it is their paperwork's a disaster, and their accounting is a disaster. And they may be amazing business people, but they're not putting it in the boxes that the government, the SBA made it simple, but they didn't make it simple enough for a lot of really small businesses. So, how do we help connect, if you will, be a platform to connect small businesses who want more help with mentors who are willing to donate their professional acumen and time to help these small businesses. I spoke with a barber who we funded the other day named Prentice Boone. He's in the video, Greg. He's got the beard. He's just an amazing guy. He's been working for 5 years. He has his own nonprofit that helps mentor young men from the community who want to start their own businesses about how to get a bank account, how to register the business, how to do all the proper paperwork, how to file taxes, like how to do it in a way that makes it bankable, for lack of a better word. So I think there's that. M&T Bank has stepped forward not only with a $50,000 donation sponsorship from their foundation, but also saying we want to help these businesses on an ongoing basis. Please give our names. And they gave me 3 names from their community business banking and relationship management departments to share with any and all small businesses that want them to help those businesses. Obviously, the question was other than money, but I would say this is other than money. I mean, it's possible that those businesses would grow and take a loan from M&T. But again, to the spirit of how do you run the business with more efficiently and giving it a greater chance to grow and prosper and succeed. So I think we're very cognizant of this. And finally, I'll answer it by saying that I've had a preliminary conversations with the Penn students about how, the volunteerism from Penn has been outstanding. We'd love to see other universities step forward too, but then how do we connect these business students, law students, professional students, and maybe even undergrads down the road? How do we connect them with the small businesses for internships and also to add value from the life cycle of that business? We're not going to let this data just go to waste. I mean, we're gonna use this information with the permission of everybody involved, of course. We're going to use this information to see if we can continue to help these small businesses on their journey.
Sorry, Gabe, but one of the things that when we first got together and you told me about the fund and I kind of went back and looked at it and learned more about it. The first thing that popped into my head was, and this ties to one of our questions, it's a PA 30-day fund. And I was like, is 30 days enough? It is. And the purpose behind this, obviously there's plans to extend it because you're basically at 30 days, I think tomorrow.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's plans. So what does the future look like for the PA 30-day fund and kind of what are the plans from a timing perspective?
So you're asking me or my wife? Because Cheryl might have a very different answer than I might have. I think Cheryl would like me to return to the family at some point. But all kidding aside, I think as a board, we're starting to have those conversations. I mean, it is. I don't want this to come across as patting ourselves on the back. We're not looking for that. I am the only one that says this. I continue to marvel at just the amount of time that our board members and our volunteers are committing to help small businesses at this time. And nobody seems to want to slow down, which is awesome. That drives me. I think realistically, as the Commonwealth opens back up, as small businesses get back on their feet, our sincere hope is that the services and the need that we're meeting, the services we're providing and the need we're meeting right now starts to go away, and that by the end of the summer, we'd be in a position to not see any more applications because small businesses survived this valley of death or this extinction level event, and we're able to move on and are now open and getting back on their feet. If that's not the case, we have capacity to continue to help, but the sincere hope would be that these businesses are back on their feet and that the economy has safely and responsibly reopened, and that our mission is complete. That said, as I mentioned before, to Gary's question, we think there's a lot more help that can be provided, and we think we've built something unique and necessary. And so the question is, who takes over after we ride off into the sunset, so to speak, and who takes over and takes the mantle? And I don't know whether that'll be a group of students at Penn and Drexel and Temple and Duquesne and Penn State. I mean, I just don't know how that will go. We obviously have to start having those conversations, but I don't have an answer yet.
So are you currently looking for volunteers? I mean, if there's somebody watching this that wants to kind of get involved, is there open opportunities for people to help? Absolutely.
I mean, we need volunteers as part of the application review process. We need volunteers to within their own communities. I mean, if we have a cross section of the Commonwealth here watching, I just talked to a couple of the National Guards at the store because the National Guard is at the store in North Philadelphia. I talked to a couple of the guardsmen, just chit-chatting with them when I was getting in my car after I bought some groceries and after the event. And I said, where are you guys from? And one was from Altoona. The other was from Mifflin County. And so one from Blair, one from Mifflin. I started telling them about what we're doing. And they're like, oh my gosh, well, I'm a barber. The gentleman from Mifflin County is a barber. He's like, I know all 6 barbers in Mifflin County. He said that. I didn't say that. He said, I know all the 6 and they're all struggling. And, they should be applying. I was like, yeah, spread the word. So I'm like handing them the information. I mean, we need the volunteerism we need is always, we need more applications from small businesses who are in need, and we need donations from people who are able to help support those businesses. And I want to stress, having the money with no applications does nobody any good. Having too many applications and no money also does us no good.
Well, I just see by the amount of time we have left, we're kind of winding down, and I just wanted to thank Jeff for taking the time to really putting some time aside today to help people understand what the fund is, how it's working, and give us a better understanding of really how it came to be. I'll just ask one last little question to land on. That's why if anyone still part of the program has a question, now would be the time to share it, because we're about to wrap. But I'm speaking personally, it's just to listen to your story, Jeff, and how you got involved and some of the experiences you've been having. It's pretty inspiring, and it certainly gives us all something to think about and how we're all moving forward over the next couple of months and years. What I want to ask is directly tied to, again, I love the fact that this was really all about business recovery, small business recovery. I just want to ask, you've had the opportunity to talk to so many small business owners now, and specifically about the fund and how financially they can get help. But I thought the question about the plumber and the experience with the plumber was pretty moving about this, because you start to ask yourself, was it me? And did I do something wrong? That's heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time. But the question is this: is that yes, small business owners right now who are feeling it and might be a little bit afraid and unsure. Yes, applying for the loan would be let's say the first thing they should do. But can you give us an idea of what are some of the other things small business owners could be doing right now to help stabilize and perhaps move forward, beyond applying for the funds? What else are you seeing that other small business owners are doing in the form of action that's helping, that's giving them, not just hope, but they're starting to feel maybe some progress? So what else are you seeing that you could offer today to small business owners?
I mean, time and again, the innovation and the pivoting that these small businesses can do in a way that large companies really can't.
Right.
And so being able to see new customers or new ways to reach customers. And I'll give you an example. There's a rowing instructor who has a small business. It's the only Black-owned rowing sculling business in the country, she said in her video. And I happen to know her as well, so I believe that's accurate. She just started, like, she can't row on the Schuylkill. So she started taking people up to parts of the state that have yellow or green and doing a day of rowing up there. They're not doing anything they shouldn't be doing. They're just innovating. I mean, throwing the boats in a U-Haul and going somewhere else, allows her to stay in business. Rowing in different parts of the state that allows her to stay in business. That's incredibly innovative. And, not many people can just do that. That's at the micro level. I would say at a more basic level, you see a lot of retailers who have pivoted to online sales. You see a lot of restaurants that have pivoted with the menu pricing, their menu items, how they reach their customers, how they work with other local businesses to do delivery, so they don't have to pay 30+% off the top to a delivery service. I think it's sort of a writ large across all of the businesses we see. There's just an incredible amount of innovation now. The hairstylist, the barber, there's some businesses you can't pivot or innovate. There's no way to do a virtual haircut as far as I know. So for those businesses, it's perseverance and it's guts and it's just sticking through it. But the joy of meeting so many entrepreneurs, it must actually be one of the best parts about being a venture capitalist, although I wouldn't actually know that, but you just get to interact with a lot of people who are creative and thoughtful and know how to get around, over, or through roadblocks.
That's awesome. Greg, you have any other questions? Because I think we're kind of coming up on time, and want to make sure that we've fielded anything. Any thoughts?
Can I close with something? Sorry, Greg.
No, go ahead.
I mean, look, my Facebook feed is probably like a lot of people's Facebook feeds right now, which is people are writing deeply emotional, deeply personal, very raw. You almost have to marvel at the time we live in, that people are so unafraid to put it out there, the emotion that they're feeling. And I applaud that. I've called a lot of my friends who have done that on Facebook, just simply to say, number one, I love you. Number two, I'm so glad you had the guts to share that, because that's not easy. And number three, almost all of them are saying at the end, I need to do more and I will. And I'll say, as only a friend, as my friend said to me, 6 weeks ago, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And, some of them have good answers. Some of them haven't thought through it at all. Some of them are BS answers, candidly. But what I say with great cheer and with great compassion and with great sincerity is, you can help save a small business today. Today. You can either go to that business you love and encourage them to apply to our 30-day fund for help. Call them, text them, email them, Instagram them, whatever, DM them, whatever, however people communicate these days. And the other way to do it is to donate. To go online and donate. If a Philadelphia police officer in the midst of all this can donate $1,000, my friends who live in Montgomery County and elsewhere who have capacity, not for me to judge how people give their money. They don't have to give it to my cause, but they should go on and donate to somebody who's making a difference. And if it's small businesses and their communities that they're concerned about, we're making a difference right now. And that's my argument. I don't know what they think of me when I make that argument to them, but I really believe it passionately that words without action, run for office if that's your thing. If you want to actually do something, there's any number of vehicles right now to put your money where your mouth is and make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to close with Jeff. I appreciate. I know you've been incredibly busy with the fund, but I just want to appreciate your time and the stories and sharing the PA 30-day fund. It's an awesome cause. It's creating incredible change and opportunities for those business owners. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm glad we can get the word out. And anybody who's interested, go to the site, donate. Got businesses that you're connected to that could use funds. Tell them about it, get the word out, and have them apply. Thank you.
And thanks for everyone who joined us and stayed with us.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting. Thanks to everybody for taking an hour out of their day. And everybody have a safe, healthy, and hopefully fun weekend.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.